See you all this morning on this beautiful day. I just wanted to mention, I know Bob introduced our musical guests, but I also wanted to mention that you're going to hear them sing later. And also, Michael's going to be doing the chant for the meditation that we're doing. And he also has a CD of his chants, newly done, hot off the press, so to speak. Yeah. And so now he has to pay for them, right? So they're out there in the vestibule, and they're beautiful. Bob and I had a chance to, of course, hear Michael's chants when we were at Unity of Indianapolis, and they were really wonderful. So please help support Michael. Anyway, and to all of those of you who are at home watching, I want to just welcome you, and so glad that you're here with us in spirit and on Facebook. So, all right, well, first photo, please, Duncan. I don't know if you, can you see this okay? That was me and my best friend Marilyn when we were little girls, living in a small town in Kansas. And I think that picture was taken around the time I tried to cut my own hair. My friend Marilyn was very much this little perfect girl, and she loved playing with Barbies. I, on the other hand, was a tomboy and loved riding horses and playing cowboys with my neighbors Carl and Butch. Anyway, Marilyn and I lived just down the street from each other, and every day after school we'd go to one of our houses and have a snack. And one day I was at Marilyn's house, and Marilyn's father had just gotten home from work. He was the vice president of one of the banks there in my hometown. And after he had given Marilyn a hug and a kiss, he pulled me over and put me up on his lap, and which I really loved because my father wasn't that demonstrative, you know, but Glenn, his name was very loving and caring and affectionate. But anyway, so I'm basking in the love and the attention, and he says, "Carla, I think you're getting a little chunky." And I remember thinking, chunky, what's that mean? Oh, and I realized he was talking about my weight. And I went home that day and looked in the mirror, sucked in my stomach, and at that point in time, I took on a label, chunky, and I carried that with me. Now, fast forward, and Duncan put the next. Which, when we gave Duncan the slides, I said, "What did you think?" And he went back, and he was speechless. Yes, that is Rev Carla. Well, I wasn't a reverend then. That was me at 23, and after my first husband asked for a divorce, I drove to Florida to start over, and I ended up getting a job as a Playboy bunny, which is basically a waitress, and a waitress with a skimpy costume. And I couldn't believe that I actually got this job, you know. But it paid, tips were good. But anyway, one day, I went into the bunny mother's office. You had to check in, and the bunny mother, yes, that's what they called her. You had to sure that you were dressed accordingly and that you had everything on that you were supposed to. And I went into her office, and she looked at me and she said, "Step on the scales." And none of us wanted to hear that. So I got on the scale, and she says, "I'm going to put you on the fat list." And I had gained 5 pounds since the time I'd been hired. And I now weighed a whopping 110 pounds. So anyway, basically the fat list was to tell you that if you were told if you had to lose the weight in 1 week, or else you would be taken off the schedule and you wouldn't be able to work, which meant no money. So anyway, for the next week, I would eat my meals and I would go to the bathroom and throw it up. And that's what I did every day to get down 5 pounds so that I could work again. But at the time that this happened, I took on another label, fat. And it followed me for a long time, you know, that sense of being overweight. And it was to the point where I hated to eat anything because I was so afraid of gaining weight and not being able to work. You know, eating a dessert and having that fear and that guilt that if you ate it, it was going to mean that you couldn't work. Okay, Duncan, you can take that down now. Thank you. Well, the idea that we are not our body, you know, I think it doesn't come to you when you're young. You know, you identify more with your body when you're younger. And as you get older, you start to realize, hopefully, that there is more to you than your physical body and your physical appearance. I think it helped me to work at Playboy to realize that. And it also helped that I went back to college and finished a degree. Well, anyway, we are studying the book E Squared by Pam Grout. And as we've gone through the various chapters, Bob had asked me which ones I wanted to speak on. And of course, I did the VW Volkswagen Jetta because I drove one of those. I manifested that. And then the other one I thought, Jenny Craig. Yeah, that's my topic. And ironically, I actually worked at a Jenny Craig for a few months in between other jobs. But I just decided this is what I needed to talk about, and it had to do with my own story as well. So in the Jenny Craig chapter, what she's basically talking about is how our thoughts, beliefs, emotions affect our body and our consciousness. And an example of that is after my first husband had asked for a divorce, I got on the road and headed to Florida. And on the way down to Florida, I developed a urinary tract infection. And I had to make a lot of stops. You know, about every exit that came up, I was like, oh, I gotta stop. Well, I didn't realize it at the time because I hadn't discovered these wonderful teachings. But years later, I picked up a copy of the book, Louise Hay, Heal Your Body. How many of you are familiar with that? Okay, yes. Wonderful book, and I really suggest that you pick up a copy. And what it says in here, I'm quoting about urinary infections, pissed off. Usually at the opposite sex or a lover. And I had to agree that yes, That was probably pretty right on as to how I was feeling at that point in time. Our consciousness, everything is about energy. You know, our body is made up of energy. All the cells in our body have energy. Everything that is living, and some even say things that aren't living, have consciousness, like a rock. So we have to be aware of that. And the energy can be affected by our thoughts. So back when I was in my 20s and 30s, I had migraine headaches. And one of the things that my doctor suggested that I try was biofeedback. And basically biofeedback is where you're able to control your body. And I was hooked up to electrodes, and I would think about having my blood flow to my extremities, my feet, my hands. And I was able to control that and get the blood out of my head where the headache was and get that blood circulating. And it really worked in terms of helping my headaches to be either reduced or actually in some cases going away. So plants and animals have energy and have consciousness. Back in 1973, there was a book written about the secret life of plants. And after I read that, it freaked me out because I found out that my plants could hear everything I was saying and they knew what I was thinking. And, you know, those that I was looking at and saying, oh, that's ugly plant, you know, they could hear that. They could sense that. They could sense the feelings. And the research that was done on that found that if they hooked up electrodes to the leaves of these plants and they burned a leaf, the plant, the energy in that plant just went haywire. And also we look at animals. Animals also have that energy and that consciousness. So, and animals eat plants, so we take into, and we do as well, so we take into ourselves that energy as well. What it's basically saying is that we are all connected as part of this living system that we exist in, that plants, animals, people, all of us are connected, and all of us have energy. So anyway, we have to change our thoughts. If you were like me, and I am still trying to drop a few pounds and get back down again, we have to be aware of the thoughts that we have about our food. It's not so much what we're eating, it's our thoughts about it. And I remember there was a weight loss center that would use that saying, it's not what you're eating, it's what's eating you, which is about your emotions. So if you're eating with fear and with guilt, it's going to affect how that food affects your body. So what I'm going to do is, what I'd like to tell you is that we're going to do the experiment, if you're willing to do it, that Pam Grout has in her book in this chapter. And Duncan, I'm going to ask you to put that up there. So the experiment is to refrain from talking smack about your body. And good idea, of course, is to refrain from negativity altogether. So instead of getting up and looking in a mirror and saying, oh gosh, I look so whatever, I'm not even going to say it. Don't do that. You know, look at your body and praise it, as Myrtle Fillmore did when she talked to her body. And before you put anything into your body, send it loving thoughts. Put your hand over it and bless it. I used to do blessings over my food when I was young. Our family did it. But over time, I stopped doing that. And I realized, especially after reading this book, is that it's not just about feeling grateful for the food that you have to eat, but it's about blessing that food to your body, seeing it as being something that adds energy to your body. It adds healthy vitamins, minerals, all of this to nourish your body. So as you begin to think about eating your food at your meals, think about the wonderful things that it's doing to help you and make you stronger and healthier. And then concentrate on infusing your food with love, joy, and peace. So as we begin to eat, just place our hands just over that food and bless it, and just feel love and joy and the blessing of having that food to eat. See how it can change the whole energy of your experience of eating so much differently than sitting there thinking, oh God, I might as well just apply this chocolate cake to my thighs because it's, you know, and I've thought that sometimes. Well, as I'm closing here, there's one more thing I'd like you to do. And did all of you get a piece of paper when you came in? I hope so. If you didn't, please raise your hand, and one of our ushers will get that to you. So raise your hand if you didn't get a piece of paper. Okay, I think we're covered. All right, well, lastly, what I'd like you to do is to put down on this piece of paper any labels that you have received over your lifetime. What have you taken on? What have you been told about yourself that you bought into? You know, whether it's you're lazy, you're dumb, you're crazy, you're fat, you're ugly, you're this, whatever it is. I think we all got them growing up, and some of them we took and we slapped them on us. And you may also have picked up a few of your own along the way. So what I'd like you to do today is write down the labels that you might have on yourself, and on the way out, we're going to have a wastebasket in the foyer there, and I'd like you to crumple that up, throw it in, and we're going to get rid of it. So as we prepare to get into our meditation, our chant meditation, I'd like you to just spend some time writing that down and letting it go as you leave the sanctuary today. Let go. All right, Michael.